Welcome to College Volleyball Weekly on volleyballmag.com, powered by P1440. Thanks for clicking or tapping in. Now here's your host, Rob Espero, also known as Rob on the Mic.
Hello, everyone. Another episode of College Volleyball Weekly. I'm Rob Espero. You've got Rae Friend of Lewis University and Jay Hosack of George Mason University. After yet another exciting week of D1-2 men's volleyball. Greetings, gentlemen.
Greetings.
Hey, let's start off with our conference. We'll call it the conference lockdown. Our conference being locked down, except for the Big West, of course, because we hadn't even started. But Conference Carolinas news this week: Barton, the only undefeated team at 8-0. Right now, King, the projected second place team, is in third because they lost Mount Olive and to Barton. But let's jump over to the MEVA conference. That's Dan's conference. Talk about what's happening on your end there, Dan.
Well, I think you saw Lindenwood at home again, and they got a couple nice solid wins, both 3-1 against both Ball State and Ohio State. And you saw a couple different pieces. I mean, they got their main guys, Diego Negron on the outside, and you saw them play a different right side because I think Kirsch played the first night and had a really good night, had 17 or 18 kills, hit a good clip for around 300 or 400. And then you saw a different opposite play. So I don't know if that was injury or not for them against Ohio State. But I think I think they're good. We played them here. They serve well. They've got some pins on the outside. They got a couple pins depth-wise, too, at the same time. Their middles close well. I think one night they blocked 15 or 16 balls. I think it was the first night against Ball State. And so they're going to be tough. And you see that with their record right now. They're 11-6 overall. 4-2 in league. I think it'll be how do they take care of business when they get on the road because they've already played 4 of the league games at home in terms of that, and so that'll be pretty important as they move forward.
McHenry, since you're avoiding the one top team in the conference at 7-1, that would be your guys.
Hey, let me get to everybody else, okay? All right, so. McKendree, you see them, they're playing without their setter, so they had to take their red shirt that they were going to, and they've got a different setter. So I don't know if Serrano will be back, but they got a split between Loyola and then beating Purdue Fort Wayne at home, which for us was where we went to, and I thought we did a nice job there. And, you know, Purdue's got to gain some ground back up. They took a couple tough losses at home, and you always want to take home conference and get those games. But and then you saw Ball State get a split on the road. Quincy, lost both those, but certainly are playing better. And as you said, I thought we took care of business both on a road match and a home match with certainly some guys stepping up and 2 sweeps for us. And so,
good week for the Lewis Flyers. Let's jump on over to the EIVA, home of Jay Hosack and the Mighty Patriots. What's happening there?
Yeah. Are we going to talk about the Conference Carolinas? I want to talk about Barton for a second. You have that?
Sure, we can shift back.
Okay, let me shift back then real quick to Barton. Barton is likely going to run the table the rest of the year. They don't have anybody outside of conference that's going to push them. They are 8-0 right now in conference. And you got a 4-headed monster with Angelos Mandelaris hitting .412 on the year. You got Nicolo Mancine, outside hitter from Italy, hitting .270 on the year. And you got Adrian Iglesias, a sophomore from Puerto Rico, hitting .319 on the year. And their setter, Oscar Fiorentino, is setting their team to a .353 clip on the year so far. That team is going to be dangerous. Nobody's going to want to play them in the playoffs. Now we'll go to the EIVA. We took our lumps this last weekend at Penn State, like somebody on the screen might have taken in some rec ball. But we rebounded the next night and beat St. Francis in 4, and I was happy with the last couple of games' performance from our guys. That win against St. Francis really puts us in a decent position. We're currently in 3rd place in the EIVA behind Princeton and Penn State, who is undefeated so far. That next group of teams, NJIT, Harvard, and us, seem to be the 2 or the 3 teams that are fighting for the 2 spots and the remaining 2 playoff spots for the EIVA. St. Francis, Charleston, and Sacred Heart probably dug themselves into a hole that might be pretty tough to get out. Nobody is mathematically eliminated yet, but 5 losses in the conference seems to be the cutoff point. Might be 6 this year, and 1 team already is at that point. So the teams are starting to shuffle down a little bit. But, the EIVA itself, Harvard lost to Princeton. That's the battle of the wicked smart guys. Sam did a nice job of putting his team together, ready to go. Even got James Hartley some play time over Parker Dixon. And then you look across, and Charleston went 0-2 on the weekend, kind of licking their wounds a little bit, trying to figure out what they're going to do next because we see them coming up next weekend. But yeah, the EIVA is shaping up to be a dogfight still, even though it's not necessarily for all 4 playoff spots. 2 of those playoff spots are really in hot contention, and it's going to be a really hot run for this next 4 or 5 weeks in conference.
Right. Well, we're going to go over to the MPSF, and obviously BYU stands out in front with a 6-0 record. They're 16-0, quite a year for the Cougars, but it's behind the Cougars that's going to be the craziness. Between Grand Canyon, Pepperdine, you still got UCLA. Concordia is beginning to heat up right now. And you never know what USC is going to do because they came up hot last year. What are your guys' thoughts on what's happening in the MPSF?
I was a little shy. Grand Canyon, I was like, man, those guys are really, heating up. And then all of a sudden, bam, they take 2 losses. You know what I mean? And so, and they were good matches. Concordia played really well. And so you saw Concordia get hot on the weekend, getting 2 wins. And so I think they're similar to all these other conferences. Certainly you got BYU who's separated, but the rest of the pack, any given night, somebody can beat anybody. You know what I mean? They've all got good pieces on their teams, whether it's a couple pins or a combination of an oppo and a pin. And so I think it'll be interesting, and each week's going to be pretty big to see kind of, who separates, but I just don't think anybody does. I think you're going to get to the end, and it's going to be a hodgepodge, and come conference tournament time, who's playing the best volleyball when they get there.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with Dan 100%. It's BYU probably going to host the entire thing. And on any given night, any of those teams could beat anybody. I think Concordia right now with Lindenwood are the 2 hot teams in the country. Concordia with a 2-headed monster of Hoppy and Barsimin on the outside that are doing a real nice job for them. But playing in Provo, that's not an easy task. And I know Sean Patchen would love to go up to BYU and beat them in Provo. That would be an awesome task. But it's a pretty big one to try to accomplish for sure.
Yep. Hey, we're going to jump over to the Big West, the conference that hasn't really started, but UC San Diego in first place for the last 3 weeks now since they beat UC Irvine twice at 2-0 in the Big West, and Irvine in last at 0-2. But we see our first couple of matches this week, and but because there's not a lot to assess Big West conference-wise, we have seen now this week, and we're going to go into this match. What do we know about Long Beach State? Because they haven't really played. We haven't seen a lot of them this year versus in the previous 2 years in their national championship runs. And we were chatting about it before going on our call here, but did this last weekend's match against UCLA reveal anything more? Stumped everyone. No, look at that.
I was looking at Dan to start this one.
Sorry. I mean, I think it's tough. I think, Long Beach bounced back and got a win in 5. They're certainly talented. They've got pieces all over the place. And so, but we're also talking about a UCLA team that's still trying to figure it out. And so, I think league gets interesting. It's like, I want to see them play San Diego, who's kind of established themselves. I want to see them play Santa Barbara, who's established themselves. And so ultimately we're talking about Lindenwood being hot. I think Lindenwood actually plays Long Beach coming up. That'll be interesting to me. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, that's going to be a match where you're like, hey, how does that Lindenwood team who's kind of hot and the Long Beach team who's certainly talented. And so I think that's my current thoughts on Long Beach. I think they're certainly good. There wouldn't be top 5 if they weren't. But how do they get challenged and how do they face those challenges on this second half of the season will be pretty important.
I think Dan hit it right on the nail there. The thing for me is Long Beach has had Josh Tuaniga for the last 4 years running their offense, and now they have a new setter who's not bad. He's doing a nice job, but he's not the same. And I think you have some guys that are holdovers from those years that are used to a certain tempo, a certain pace. And the setter's doing a great job of keeping up with that stuff. I just think the comfort level they had with Tuaniga there for the last 4 years is just something they're getting over. But they've got the meat of their schedule coming up. They're coming out here in a couple of weeks to play us in Charleston, and they got to cut. They're starting their Big West play here pretty soon. That win over UCLA is a big win because obviously it's against a good team. UCLA is now without a player that seems to be off the roster, which is a little bit strange midseason. But regardless of that, he wasn't the reason why UCLA was winning or losing. But I'm wondering if now that player being removed, maybe there's a little addition through subtraction. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with UCLA the rest of the way.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's jump into the other team in the Big West that has high expectations as they go into coming into this big weekend. Hawaii, 14-0 right now. Technically 16-0 with that two exhibition matches against Nidadai, the Sports Performance Institute in Japan. But they've had some time off here, and let's talk about the undefeated teams going at it starting this weekend. For BYU, they're coming off of matches in Stanford, I believe, if I remember correctly. And the other second match is slipping my mind. But these teams go in hot, but Hawaii with the two exhibition matches, is that enough to keep them sharp enough for this weekend's matches?
I think. I'm stealing your thunder now, Dan.
Sounds good.
Here's my thing. I don't care about who they played this past weekend. It does nothing for me. Hawaii played their second team most of the weekend anyways. The great thing about the BYU match coming up is that we're finally going to see who really is deserving of being number one. I still have BYU as number one because they played a better schedule so far. But Hawaii is very talented as well. You're going to see two great opposites going at it with Rado and Garcia. That's going to be a fantastic match to watch both times. But you also got some good middles. You got Gassman and you got the Voss and the other guy for Oberender for BYU. You got Colton Cowell, who's going to be going up against Gardini. I mean, this is and two great setters. Like, this is just going to be fantastic volleyball to watch. The stand sheriff should be packed, and we'll finally see who's going to be clearly number one. And knowing the way things are going now, it's going to be a split for the weekend, and then we're still going to have people debating over it.
Come on, go 2-0. Come on, Jake, pick a 2-0 team this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to piggy on that. I think it'll take BYU maybe a little bit to settle in the first night from a serve pass, especially on the passing side. So, but I think BYU's got a couple pieces. You start matching position for position, and I think BYU might be just a hair better. That's just my opinion. Do you know what I mean? Now I'm curious to see if Felipe's healthy or not, do you know what I mean, in terms of that, and like where all the health pieces on both sides. But see Hawaii really challenged. I'm not sure they've been challenged in the past few weeks, and so it's an exciting match. I'm somehow going to make sure I watch it and maybe get away from coaching my match. I don't know, because I kind of want to. But I agree with Jay. I think who comes out this weekend where we're going, oh, hey, right now they're number one, because that can easily change in a few weeks later. So just with how things go. So.
Well, what I've caught this last week, particularly with BYU, is I'm realizing they actually have some depth now because
you're freezing up, Rob.
Playing really well, and Zach Eschenberg has really stepped up his game to really support the other pins of Gabby and Davide. So, but again, Jay, you referenced Colton Cowell is playing next level right now. I'm curious who they're going to bring out as their OH2. Is it going to be Humler or Galloway, or is there going to be a little chess match going on here between the coaches? So. Regardless, it's going to be an exciting weekend at the Stan Sheriff Center, and I'd love to be there in person because that place is going to be rocking with over 12,000.
I don't know who the O2 is going to be for Hawaii, but I guarantee you it's going to be the better passer of the two. That's going to be my call right there.
Yeah.
Right on. Let's jump over to our top performers segment here of week 9. Who wants to step in? I think I had Dan go first last week. Jay, you feeling it, or does Dan take the reins?
I'm feeling it. I'm going to name two quickly. One is the Barton team playing the way they're playing. They're doing a nice job. They're going to run the table, and they're going to go out to the final 7, or at least to the playing game. But my true player of the week is Dan's guy, Kevin Colling. He set them to a win versus Loyola 481. Set them to another win, 348 against Purdue Fort Wayne. Guy's doing a really, really nice job of running an offense. He's blocking well. He's a good leader on the court. It's one of those kids that's a game changer, and he's only a freshman. That's the scary part. It doesn't make me want to schedule Lewis any more than I already have to.
All right, Dan, you're up.
Well, I actually got a few guys all off the same team, Concordia Irvine. A couple big wins for those guys. I think Jordan Hoppy had 19 kills and hit 310, had 18 kills and hit 500. I think Barsimian had 25 kills on the second night, but still led him in points on the first night, even though maybe his percentage wasn't quite as good, but he still led him with like 22 points. And so, those two guys, the Hoppy Barsimian combo out there certainly solidified 2 wins. But they had a couple other guys. I think their middle had 7 blocks. It's Noah, Lissandro, and then I think
Lissandro, yeah.
Sandra, yeah. And then Enriquez or Libero had a really good match, 16 digs. And so, lots of pieces there that I think really stood out for them and helped them take another step.
Fun little fact about Noah Lissandro. I actually know that kid because he grew up out here on the East Coast. He's 6'10"?
Yep.
He was a diver back in the day. He was doing yeah. So take that into consideration. The kid is 6'10" and was a diver.
So he's wearing Speedos underneath his boardies and playing on this week.
Yeah, super nice kid too. So good for him.
That's awesome.
Great calls there. I'm actually gonna pick Dan's other guy, Coonan, again, because he's just been on fire this year.
Thanks for all the love. I love it. So.
I know I ignored your setter, but it was the 19 kills, 0 error performance he had on one night that just drew my attention. And I looked at his stats from the previous night. For the week, he had, leads your team, 204 kills per set. He's got 204 kills in the season, 3.85 kills per set. And for the week, he hit 480, 29 kills, 2 aces, 3 block assists, 14 digs. So, great week for him, but then also I agree with you, Barsimian of Concordia, 2 big wins over 2 top 8 teams, and with the week he hit 277, 40 kills, 5 aces, 19 digs, and all that in shockers against Grand Canyon and UC Irvine. So I couldn't ignore that. So great calls across the board, though. Let's jump over to our matches we are watching for week 10, because this is our halfway point, if I calculated correctly. So
halfway point for some teams that actually play conference games. So.
I was just going to say halfway point for everybody except the Big West.
Big West. Who wants to go first?
It's tough. Of course, the BYU Hawaii. They play twice. We're all going to say that. So I'm not going to dwell on that one too much because that's the biggest match I think coming up in terms of that stuff. But there's one in our league. Ball State goes to Ohio State. So that's always a classic match that you're going to see that I think is really good. You got UCSD at UCLA. For me, that's a match that I want to see and see where UCSD is at. And then Irvine and Grand Canyon. I think that's at Grand Canyon. And so there's a couple matches for me that kind of highlight the week. But lots of good volleyball for sure. So,
Yeah, I know. I'd agree. I think if you're not watching BYU Hawaii, you're not a real men's volleyball fan. That's the 2 matches that I will somehow find a way to stay up for, whether I got to drink a ton of coffee or wherever the case is. I want to watch those live. I'm going to be watching Long Beach State and Lindenwood. Long Beach State obviously is a good team. Lindenwood is one of the hot teams right now, and they just came off a couple of solid wins. They're carrying a lot of momentum and a lot of confidence going into the pyramid and playing them there. That's going to be a fun match to watch. I will also be watching UC San Diego, but against UC Santa Barbara.
That's a Big West match, just in case you're wondering.
That's right. That's the next match. And then my last one I'm going to watch is NJIT versus Princeton. Only reason I'm watching that is the second part of the series of Battle New Jersey. But NJIT is sitting below Harvard in the playoffs. If Princeton can pull out another win, that separates them even further from getting in, which obviously helps our cause. So I'll be watching that match with some bated breath.
Well, I'm watching a couple teams because they go at each other twice. It's a Lewis
Stanford. Just pull a Nick Lewin?
I think so.
Special guest.
Oh, look at baby Rae.
Hi.
That's awesome.
The associate head coach of the Lewis program.
You say hi. Say hi. Oh, you're gonna take my. Oh no, you're gonna see my shoulder, guys. Here we go.
That's right. The best heat dispute at the Friend household.
Awesome.
Ray's taking wax at me, guys. It's tough.
Best guest ever. I feel like I'm just gonna say my one is Lewis at Stanford. I don't know if you heard that part, but
I
He's
did
got
not.
Dan
Yeah.
coming to us. And, such a there goes the other eye, or the same
That's
eye
right.
just sticking out.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't worry about my head. Is that better? Yeah.
Perfect.
So-
She knows how to dress you.
That's awesome.
So yeah, as with Jay, I am looking forward to another Big West match, conference match, San Diego at Santa Barbara. But I'm surprised none of you guys mentioned Penn State at Ohio State, the Sunday match.
Yeah,
I
no, I was.
too many matches. So
Hey, it's always Penn State and Ohio State's always a great match because it's obviously a Big Ten rivalry. I was going to mention it, but I figured there were a couple others that were taking some precedent for me.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks you guys again, and thanks for the special guest. Good old Rae, the associate head coach of Lewis University, and with Eddie. That's right. She's taking officiating courses through the AVCA, huh?
Exactly. You know what I mean? That's where I learn everything. So
Well, that's Dan Friend, head coach at Lewis, Jay Hosack, head coach at George Mason. I'm Rob on the mic. College Volleyball Weekly, episode 9. We be out. We'll be checking in next week, and good luck, you guys, this week in your matches.
Thanks for checking out College Volleyball Weekly on volleyballmag.com, powered by P1440. Be sure to follow volleyballmag.com on the web and social media.